Hello, I'm that being, and I've got something to say about American Horror Story Season 10. Stick around. So the first clue we got was in Season 9 of American Horror Story, during Episode 8, titled Rest in Pieces. I started my investigation there. The episode featured a reporter named Stacy Phillips, and the general consensus was that the clue was when Stacy said, back in the 70s, all anyone cared about was Bigfoot, aliens, the Loch Ness Monster, all that Leonard Nimoy in search of-ish. But the 80s are all about serial killers, human monsters. However, Stacy also said, truth is often stranger than fiction, which I thought was interesting since Stranger Than Fiction was a television show that was similar to In Search Of, and explored sort of urban legends, sci-fi, and strange creatures. Stacy also talked about a veneer of wholesomeness covering up a violent darkness, and she mentioned the Inquirer several times. I also noticed in the episode that Donna said, there's evil inside you, yes, it's in us all, dormant and waiting. It grows in us like a cancer, but only if you feed it what it wants. And I thought that might be a hint towards something. And I also noticed that the ghost said, like you're drifting in space alone forever. And I'll come back again to that later. And then I also thought, what about the Mary Kay reference? Because that Mary Kay car was pretty conspicuous. The next clue we got was when shooting began filming in Provincetown. It was revealed that the working title of the shoot was American Horror Story Pilgrim. Because of the location, people began going crazy for the idea that this would be a season of aquatic horror. This is when people began discussing the possibility of sirens. What we were hearing, though, was that fan theories suggesting sirens or vampires were all incorrect. At that time, it was also reported that Ryan Murphy had been planning something for the season that was very weather-dependent. My only speculation about that at the time was that he might have been hoping to set some of the scenes during a nor'easter, like he did in Season 2, since Season 2 was set not far from Provincetown. This photo was the next clue to be released. When it first emerged, many people seemed to think it was a photo of a dental tool, but before long people began to understand that it was a tattoo needle. Because of the tattoo needle, the oceanside location, combined with the working title, my thoughts at the time were that Season 10 might be about something piratey. I also thought that it might be appropriate because X is the Roman numeral for 10, and where there's buried treasure, X marks the spot. That led me to thinking it might be about the original colonists, and a possible scenario might be that it was about slave ships. They could explain Tituba's arrival in America and possibly tie that into Queenie and Marie Laveau in the Coven season. I was also toying with the idea that perhaps the Mary Kay car was actually a clue, and tied into Stacy Phillips talking about that veneer of wholesomeness covering a violent darkness. Makeup and tattoos are both ways of covering up things, and the mouth in the picture does look like it has lipstick on to me. I also noticed the glove holding the tattoo needle. Now that's extremely glamorous for a latex glove, in my opinion. So I think that glove belongs to Angelica Ross, because it's just the right kind of fabulous for her. I mean, if you think about it, imagine Angelica Ross running around with latex gloves on. I don't think she's going to wear those basic, ugly ones. You know, she's going to be give me those seafoam green with the opalescent finish, right? Anyway, I digress. At this point, people were still guessing that it would be about vampires and sirens, especially due to the teeth. But Angelica Ross came out at the time herself and stated, it definitely involves something surrounding sharp teeth, but that people were very far off with vampire theories, and that the season had nothing to do with anything she'd seen out there. So some other kind of creepy connections I made with this photo were Bat Boy. This photo terrorized me when I was a teen. This is the cover of Weekly World News in June of 1992, when they introduced Bat Boy to my nightmares. The Weekly World News was a tabloid newspaper similar to the Inquirer, except that while the Inquirer was suspected of twisting facts in order to make their stories shocking and sensational, the Weekly World News published blatantly fictional stories amidst obscure news stories that were presented to be as strange as possible. At this time, the internet was still pretty new, so new that most people still didn't have it, so I couldn't just hop on Google and check out the veracity of this story, and that left me wondering, that can't be real, can it? So I'd go back to the grocery store, every week, looking through the Weekly World News to see if, what I would find, but at the same time kind of being really hesitant to turn the page because I was afraid that face would pop out at me. It seriously triggered me for years, y'all. But anyway, the Weekly World News went on to write many more stories about the continuing saga of the Bat Boy, and it was even turned into a Broadway musical. I believe you can find the old articles online if you want to have some fun exploring the Bat Boy for yourself. And then, of course, back in the 90s, there was also this.
I am a mouse, and my job is to eat things. One really fun thing I get to eat is Twizzlers candy. It makes me happy.
I just had to include that because I know a lot of people considered that one of the creepy commercials from the 90s. And it kind of was, even at the time. I also thought about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, while I don't necessarily think American Horror Story 10 will include Bat Boy or Twizzlers, I could definitely see Ryan Murphy taking inspiration from this film. It's set in 1974, fitting in with the 70s theories, and it's a sci-fi horror musical about a young couple who get trapped and find themselves at the home of Dr. Frank N. Furter. Dr. Furter is a mad gender-bending scientist who has built a man and brings him back to life in the vein of Dr. Frankenstein's monster. The story includes a wild cast of characters who toy with the young couple and cause them to broaden their physical relationship boundaries? I don't know what you can say on YouTube anymore. In the end, it's revealed that Dr. Frankenfurter and his friends are all aliens, and the mansion rockets away into space, leaving Brad and Janet back on Earth. The Rocky Horror Picture Show would be a great source of inspiration for American Horror Story, solely due to its cult status and cultural relevance in the 70s. However, as Rocky Horror Picture Show is revolutionary in its time due to its take on sexuality and gender expression, it seems even more appropriate for American Horror Story when you take into account that Provincetown is a place of cultural relevance to the LGBTQ+ community, and that the series is starring Angelica, who has done so much to pave the way for trans people in Hollywood. One final note about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. At the end of the movie, there is a line said by one of the characters. Lost in time, lost in space, and meaning. It made me think about that line from The Ghost in 1984, who described death as like you're drifting in space, alone, forever. The words aren't the same, but the sentences are similar. A big clue was released when Ryan revealed that the official title of the season would be Double Feature. With this, we learned that the season will be broken up into two parts, two separate stories. One will be set by the sea, and one will be set in the sand. Each part is set to have its own cast, but I'll come back to that. This title brought me immediately back to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which opens with a song called Science Fiction Double Feature. The lyrics of the song reference older sci-fi movies, specifically Forbidden Planet, Dr. X, The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Invisible Man, It Came from Outer Space, Tarantula, King Kong, The Day of the Triffids, Night of the Demon, and When Worlds Collide. I don't know if these movies might hold a clue or not, but I think at least one of them might. Okay, so here's a cringy confession. Originally, I forgot which episode of 1984 was supposed to have the clue, so I watched episode 100 before I realized my mistake. I realized right away into the episode that it was the wrong one, but I noticed something in it that caught my eye. In the scene where Benjamin Richter is working in the video store, we see some movie posters behind him. I noticed that one of the posters was for a movie called Alligator Man, but the picture for it looked more like the creature from the Black Lagoon. I would include a photo of it, but apparently Netflix doesn't like to share, and I can't find it on a Google image search. So I began looking for Alligator Man references, and to my surprise, I found this. Another Weekly World News article. But this one was about Jake the Alligator Man, a freak show performer from Florida in the 60s. Seems like an awfully big coincidence, doesn't it? I also found a reference about a sci-fi movie about a woman whose husband goes missing, only to return after some time with the head of an alligator. But I think that was kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole. Another clue released was this photo of two hands captioned, "Things are beginning to wash up on shore." Many people assumed this clue to represent Lady of the Dunes. She's a woman who was discovered to have been killed in Provincetown in the 70s. I tend to believe that the photo might be a reference to the crime also, but at the same time, the victim in real life was discovered without her hands, so I'm not sure if the thing that's washing up on shore is the Lady of the Dunes, or if these hands are from something else. The photo was also accompanied by the song Dead of Night by Orville Peck. I would love to play a clip of it here, but I'm new to this and I want to avoid copyright drama, so go check it out. I actually really enjoyed the song. To me, it has a very Bonnie and Clyde, natural-born killers sort of a feel to it. Very sexy criminal. I found this comment on the YouTube for the song. It's like Quentin Tarantino kissed Roy Orbison with a mouthful of whiskey. I included this comment because James Dunlap stated it perfectly. His comment is as true as it is hilarious. But anyway, this makes me wonder if Ryan's planning on writing the Lady of the Dunes as part of a criminal couple? Or if the hands referenced in the photo that might belong to someone else might be part of a criminal couple, sort of a Bonnie and Clyde? I'm not sure. This photo was also posted to Ryan Murphy's Instagram. It's a sand fence that has been broken. When you do a Google search for Race Point Dunes near Provincetown, you get more photos, like this one, that are very similar. I think this is more confirmation that the Lady of the Dunes will be a part of the story, as she was discovered in this location. However, I wonder if the broken sand fence is a reference to the weather-dependent item that Ryan Murphy talked about. We've also been given this picture of Leslie Grossman and Macaulay Culkin. The photo was captioned, "Something wicked this way comes." Many people felt this was a reference to Shakespeare's Macbeth, where a witch said, "By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes." This led to speculation that the Coven witches might have a connection to this season, but it's a theory that doesn't seem to have lasted very long. Something Wicked This Way Comes is also the title of a book by Ray Bradbury written in 1962. It's about a small town in Illinois where a traveling carnival has just arrived. The leader of the carnival, Mr. Dark, has the power to grant the townspeople their most secret desires, which leads to chaos amongst the townsfolk. This seems like a highly plausible connection to me. I wonder if Macaulay or Leslie play a character similar to Mr. Dark. This is another picture released with the caption, Night Moves. Fun fact, Night Moves is the title of the 32nd episode of War of the Worlds. Many people and I tend to agree this might be a reference to the Black Flash, a local urban legend in the Provincetown area. Some people thought this might be a reference to a vampire character named Nosferatu, but old accounts of sightings of the Black Flash describe him in exactly the way Nosferatu is depicted. For me, the cast list and character names are possibly a huge clue. There are 4 characters in this list that stand out for me. First is Lily Rob's character as Doris Gardner, and Finn Whitrock as Harry Gardner. From what I've heard, they play a married couple, and Lily Rob's character is pregnant. Finn and Lily have both stated in interviews that their characters are very normal. Finn had said one of the big challenges in playing his character was trying to play him in a way that builds tension, implying that Harry Gardner is noticing or experiencing things that seem to get weirder all the time. In one interview, Lily said, "The longtime fans of the show, I can't wait to share this season with them," and that the character was nothing like anything I've played on the show before. In previous seasons, Lily played Nora Montgomery, Sister Mary Eunice, Misty Day, Eileen Wuornos, Shelby Miller, Lavinia Richter, and Doris. Well, not yet, but she will be. In all of her previous incarnations in the American Horror Story universe, her character has held some sort of like a major shift between good and evil, where I feel like her character in this season is going to be more that just baseline normal person. But I definitely think that Harry and Doris are going to be very reflective of Brad and Janet and Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now here's where things get serious. So far, I've just been showing you clues and things that they could possibly refer to, but I'm about to start giving some major spoilers if these theories are correct. So this will be your last chance to turn back if you want to miss out on these major things. So, before I get to my main theories and predictions in this video, I want to take just a minute to thank all of you for watching this. I started this process on May 10th of this year, and as you can see, it's now 3 months later, and I'm just getting this finished, but it's been a long process from all the research that went into it, plus having to learn how to shoot the videos and edit things. It's just been a long journey. So I would really appreciate it if each and every one of you would take just a second to like this video and share it to your social media, because I've only got like 9 days to get this out to as many AHS fans as possible. So I really appreciate all of your help, and thanks again. Okay, so on the character list, Sarah Paulson's character is listed as TB Karen. We all know that TB stands for tuberculosis, and I don't believe he would choose the name Karen at random. Because of this, I think it's possible that this could play into the connection with Something Wicked This Way Comes. Just as the carnival leader infects the townspeople, TB Karen may have the ability to infect the people around her, causing them to act erratically or to physically change. Now check out this video that Sarah made for Harper's Bazaar.
My prediction, the time has come for aliens, and we're about to get a full-on Area 51 storyline for AHS Season 10. I think everyone's going to think that's me. I just think it's possible. How about that? I think that is possible. I'm going to get in so much trouble.
The way Sarah answered that question was amazing. but could be extremely telling. It's like she knows something she's dying to tell, but she can't. And she can't even commit to a half-truth because she suspects otherwise, but doesn't know for sure. I know that doesn't make sense, but here's what I'm thinking. At the time, Ryan probably had been keeping the second half of the season secret from the cast of the first half. We know he likes to do that. So she couldn't answer for sure, but she definitely knew something that would have been a huge revelation. So for that reason, my first big prediction is TB Karen is the alien. In that clip, Sarah can't confirm that the season is full on Area 51 because she only knows that she'll be in the first half. But she does know that the first half is concerned with aliens, because she is the alien. If you assume this to be true, then Sarah's response to that question makes perfect sense when you rewatch her facial expressions. The last character name I want to address is Angelica Ross playing the chemist. For me, there has to be a reason why Ryan would want to give Angela's character an alias. And the only reason that makes sense to me is that he can't reveal either her first or last name, as either would be recognizable in some way. This leads me to conclude that Angelica Ross is playing Julia Walker, the daughter of Season 2's Kit Walker. It makes sense that one of the Walkers would return, as they interacted with the aliens previously. However, there's another way in which the chemist could be a clue. When I saw this character name, I remembered that there was a movie listed in Science Fiction Double Feature that had a character also called the Chemist. This movie is Night of the Demons from 1957, and it's about a satanic cult leader who has unleashed a curse in the form of a parchment with ancient runes written on it. The curse will summon a demon to kill whoever has been given possession of this parchment. I found it interesting that this was the only movie on that list that dealt with supernatural forces rather than science fiction. Interestingly, Night of the Demon was shown as a double feature with another film, 20 Million Miles to Earth. In this film, Earth has sent a rocket to the planet Venus, and the movie begins with the ship returning to Earth where it crashes into the ocean. In the wreckage, it's discovered that astronauts returned with a living organism from Venus. The organism is kind of like an egg that hasn't hatched yet, but it does hatch shortly after being discovered. Upon being born, the creature begins to grow very quickly and escapes from the people who found it. The rest of the film sees the creature innocently wandering the land looking for sulfur to eat, but being chased and threatened by the authorities. Eventually, the creature reaches 20 feet tall and seeks refuge in the Roman Colosseum, but then gets destroyed by a rocket launcher or some other massive gun thing. It's one of those stories where there isn't a clearly defined bad guy, where a creature is feared simply for being different. Ryan Murphy loves to incorporate characters that have both redeeming and damning qualities, and Karens in today's society do tend to fear people who are different from them. So I wonder if Ryan might be drawing some inspiration from this film. The claim that things are beginning to wash up on shore in Season 10 certainly sounds similar to the way in which this film opens. It's also worth noting that the creature's fast growth rate echoes what we saw in Season 2, where Kit Walker's children grow very quickly while they're in the custody of the aliens. When Kit questions this, Grace tells him, "Time works differently up there." I also want to quickly review the ways in which this might tie into other seasons, as I have another big prediction based on that, and I think it might help shape theories about the second half of the season moving forward. The only seasons that I'm currently seeing ties to are Season 2, Asylum, and Season 4, Freak Show. So possible connections to Season 2 are that it's set nearby, Kit and Alma Walker were married in Provincetown, where the season is set. Season 2 featured aliens as well. And then, if Angelica Ross is playing Julia, well then that could be a connection as well. Season 4's connection is with Dandy Mott. In one episode, Dandy referenced his mother sending him to Utah, where there was black sand, and if I remember correctly, this was to cure his tuberculosis. In the Instagram video released by Ryan Murphy, in which it was revealed that the title would be double feature, and that there would be both a sea and sand component, the sand depicted was black. But an even more concrete connection links both Season 2 and 4, which leads to my next prediction. Pepper will return in the second half of the season. We first met Pepper in Season 2 as a patient at Briarcliff Manor. However, she returned in Season 4, which was actually set prior to Season 2 chronologically. Pepper's character joined the freak show in Season 4 but was returned to the care of her sister toward the end of the season. Her story continued in Season 2, where her sister frames her for a crime and has her institutionalized at Briarcliff. Later in Season 2, Pepper is taken by the aliens and returns able-bodied, extremely intelligent, and imbued with superhuman abilities. Though it is never explained, later in the season Pepper returns to her original self, and we see very little of her. At the end of the season, we're told that Pepper died in the asylum. However, that holds very little weight with me, as Monsignor Timothy faked Judy Martin's death in a similar way, and we never actually saw Pepper die. Naomi Grossman posted this to her Instagram on April 17th. Make of that what you will. So putting all of this together, I'm imagining a season where we see Julia living in Provincetown, obviously doing something science-y. When I first started wondering if the Mary Kay car had been a clue, I wondered if Julia would be developing a makeup line, as the cast was said to be mostly female. And as someone who's been abducted by aliens and is implied to be special in some way, she might have knowledge of something that could reverse aging. However, her formula might have some unintended consequences, causing psychological or physical changes in the users. If this were the case, she would be the unwitting Mr. Dark in the story. At the same time, chemist is also a term used to signify a pharmacist. Perhaps Julia has become a pharmacist since the last time we saw her. With Doris Gardner being pregnant, she'll be needing some prenatal vitamins. Regardless, the image featuring the tattoo needle and the fierce latex glove make me inclined to think that Julia is likely doing research on the creature, as the tattoo element makes me think of tracking, labeling, and identifying. Perhaps 2B Karen can shapeshift, and the only way for Julia to identify her in her different form is to look for a tattoo or some other identifier. If she could shapeshift, or if Julia is somehow causing people to mutate with her alien formula, perhaps these stories could explain the existence of cryptids, if they're a part of the season. I don't believe that Ryan Murphy would use creatures such as the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot as characters in and of themselves. The reason I say this is that while Ryan uses supernatural forces in American Horror Story, it's almost always in the context of humans as vessels for these forces, or as the reason for them. For example, in terms of urban legends, Ryan hasn't ever incorporated an urban legend figure into the show based solely on one particular urban legend story. Instead, Ryan incorporates themes from lots of urban legends and creates his own legendary villains in the form of Rubber Suit Man, the Pig Man, and Twisty the Clown. In the same way, I feel that if Ryan were going to use cryptids, he would find some way to either develop his own unique version of them, or he would explain them as being created by humans, either through science or supernatural forces. The final and most recent clue at the time of putting this video together was this photo. It definitely confirms aliens. Thinking back to the Bonnie and Clyde vibes I got from Dead of Night, I wonder if it's possible that there are two aliens featured in this season. One of these aliens is 2B Karen, the other to be identified in the second half of the season. However, as I was getting this video ready, I learned that a teaser has now been released, and after watching it, I'm imagining a possible storyline for the season where the creature played by Sarah washes up on shore. Because of the ice depicted in the teaser, I wonder if this creature was trapped inside a glacier that broke off and melted due to warming or some other weather event. With the first half of the season called Red Tide, it implies that something will infect and kill the townsfolk. I assume this would be caused by something in the creature's blood or body chemistry, and perhaps Julia is trying to study the creature to find a way to reverse the effect it's having on the community, and has maybe even found some way to slow the effect or to medicate those who are infected, but then something causes her to be unable to continue to produce the antidote. I wonder if the second alien comes to Earth to help destroy the first creature, or if perhaps Julia calls her brother in Utah or Arizona and he happens to be doing research on a different type of alien creature there. Who knows? I also wonder if TB Karen is of an ancient alien race that maybe evolved during the time while she was encapsulated in the glacier. So maybe they're both of the same alien race, but just one's more evolved than the other. The second alien ends up landing across the country where the last 4 episodes play out. However, I wonder if the last 4 episodes will give us Thomas Walker. What I do know is that Angelica Ross said in an interview early on in production that her character was the only one who interacted with all of the other characters. So she will be in the second half of the season as well. And there you have it. My thoughts on Season 10 of American Horror Story. Thank you again for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep connecting.